We invite our keynote speaker, which will be followed by the panel discussion. After which we will share the draft resolutions and then invite the acting dean of the African Diplomatic Corps to give the closing remarks. Without taking much of your time, I would like to invite you to stand up so that we can sing the national anthem. Thank you. May I now invite the chairperson of Pan-African Movement, Rwanda chapter, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Honorable Minister of State for Integration, Honorable Ministers here present, Honorable representatives and heads of political parties in Rwanda, Excellencies, ambassadors and the high commissioners here present, comrades that have been with us in the Congress of Pan-African Movement, welcome back for this session. We shall start by doing it the Pan-African way. When I say Africa, we all raise our fists, pump the air, and say unite in spirit and body. Africa, unite. Africa, unite. Africa, unite. We shall have to be united to survive. Today we have had an opportunity to carry out two important events: the Congress of Pan-African Movement Rwanda chapter and celebrating the African Liberation Day. It was fostered on us by circumstances, but also we realized the opportunities. As we are holding our Congress deliberations, there was internal mechanism put in place to strengthen ourselves. And I want to announce to those who are here that I have been re-elected for the next 3 years to work with you. We have, as I said, we got recommendation from the Congress to strengthen the party, the movement at the grassroots, in the primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. We shall keep on with the leadership development programs that we have already started. We have worked out a mechanism to strengthen the movement financially, and at the same time, how to link effectively the different generations that are still living in our country. On a continental scale, there were some recommendations. As we were thinking through the significance of African Liberation Day, we realized we need to celebrate deeply the successes that day reminds us of. One is that the existence of a political will to get the Africans together to find solutions should be recommended. And by forming the framework, the OAU, which later turned into AU, it gives a framework for deliberation, agreement, and action. So that needs to be recommended and appreciated. We also notice that we have symbols that still unite us: the flag, the continental assembly that we have heard about it, and also mechanisms for conflict resolution and increasing trade and cooperation. So the mechanisms are there, but we also discuss the weaknesses we find in them, and we can, I hope, we shall be able to work deeper on it through these discussions. The major weakness we see that the national identities still greatly supersede the Pan-African identity. And we need to work, if we want African unity, we must find a mechanism of doing that one. One program of recommendation that Your Excellencies, the ambassadors and your commissioners and the minister, you can be discussing with the others, is that language is important. AU Commission now recommends about 6 languages, including non-African languages, to be used. How can we work in such a way that only African languages can, in the end, be the ones that can be discussed in across the Africa. So we recognize there are two now used that are pure African, Swahili and Arabic. Is there any possibility for those two languages to be taught in our primary, secondary, and university schools, so that in a few years, decades, we may have young men that can discuss with each other without any interpretation and translations? Secondly, we find that we have put in frameworks to guide us on how to cooperate, but they lack enforcement mechanisms. I don't have to go into details. Decisions are made, they are ratified in our different parliaments, implementation is poor, and no one holds the other accountable. So it's another, to celebrate effectively the African Liberation Day, we need to liberate ourselves from the weaknesses that we observe as they don't serve us. But that requires, again, collective. So those are the two. We see them in the financing mechanisms, whether at the regional cooperation level or continental level, lack of enforcement of decisions made. We see in the peace keeping, peace building, we see them in different aspects, especially even at the diplomatic level. So in this session, we would want to really dwell deeper on integration and education and intergeneration, moving towards the Africa we need and we want. And at this juncture, let me call upon our guest of honor to address us and keep Africa united. Africa united. Let's welcome the minister.
Africa? Yes. Africa? Yes. Thank you. Honorable Chairperson of the Pan-African Movement, Rwanda Chapter, Honorable Ministers present, Members of Parliament present, Excellency, the Dean of the African Ambassadors, the Secretary General of the RPF, Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, our keynote speaker for today, Governors, Mayors, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor and privilege to join you in celebrating Africa Liberation Day, a day of profound historical significance that continues to inspire Africans and people of African descent around the world. Let me begin by thanking the Pan-African Movement, Rwanda Chapter, in partnership with the African Group of Ambassadors, for organizing this important event. I also wish to commend the panelists and participants for the rich and thoughtful discussions shared today morning. This day is a moment to honor the brave men and women who fought for the liberation of our continent. Their commitment to justice and freedom laid the foundation for the sovereignty and the unity we value today. But African Liberation Day is also a time to reflect on our responsibilities as Africans to sustain and build upon the legacy they left for us. Liberation Day must go beyond the end of colonial rule. It means real and tangible freedom in every dimension, including political, economic, social, and cultural life. It challenges us to strengthen African solidarity, to deepen regional integration, and to uphold the values that define our identity as a people, especially the spirit of Ubumuntu. The theme of this year reminds us that we all have a part to play in driving the development of our continent's aspirations. The story of Rwanda has shown that each generation has the power to shape the course of history. The tragic path our country followed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi was largely shaped by youth. But it was also youth who brought about a new chapter and are now leading the country's transformation. This is not unique to Rwanda. Many liberation struggles across Africa share the same truth. Today, Africa is a continent of young people. In Rwanda, 65% of the population is under the age of 30. Projections indicate that Africans will soon represent 1/3 of the global workforce. These young people will drive innovation, create jobs, and unlock new possibilities across the world. Our priority must be to equip them with the skills, tools, and opportunities they need to succeed in today's global economy and to leapfrog our collective development. We cannot afford to see more African youth risking their lives to reach their other continents in search of opportunities. The pastures are greener where they are watered. It is our responsibility to invest in Africa, to build inclusive economies, and to retain our most valuable resource, that is our people. At the same time, the older generations must also be part of this effort. They must understand the vision and the direction of our development agenda and lend their wisdom and experience. Continental frameworks like the African Continental Free Trade Area and Agenda 2063 show us where we want to go. But the journey will only be successful if every generation and every sector of our society contributes. I therefore encourage each of you to remain engaged, to keep learning, and to continue working towards the future that we all seek. Each one of us has a role to play in Africa's continued liberation and transformation. Let me close my remarks by thanking you once again for your presence today and for your unwavering commitment to African unity, progress, and dignity. Happy Liberation Day. Africa, United. Africa, United.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, our guest of honor. It is now my great pleasure to invite our keynote speaker, Ambassador Dr. Murigande Charles.
Honorable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and Regional Cooperation, and guest of honor, Honorable Chairperson of the Pan-African Movement, Rwanda Chapter, Honorable Ministers here present, Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Secretary General of RPF, Your Excellencies, High Commissioners, Ambassadors, and heads of international organizations, governors, mayors, members of the Pan-African Movement, Rwanda Chapter, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings and happy Africa Liberation Day to you all. I would like to start my remarks by thanking the chairperson of the Pan-African Movement, Rwanda Chapter, Comrade Prote Musoni, for inviting me to this 62nd Africa Liberation Day and for giving me the distinct honor of addressing this August Assembly as keynote speaker. Those of you who had received the initial program of the event were expecting to see and listen to a much more distinguished and experienced public speaker in the person of Dr. Donald Kaberuka as guest speaker. Unfortunately, he was not able to be with us today, and the chairman has given me the huge task of filling the gap of his absence. I apologize to those of you who are already disappointed with missing the opportunity to hear from Dr. Donald Kaberuka's inspiring perspective on this year's theme of Africa Liberation Day, i.e., intergenerational approach to development, a panacea for stability and economic independence of Africa. A theme that I find to be an invitation to all of us to think of Africa liberation not as an event of the past, but as a living process that must evolve across generations. Honorables, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa Liberation Day is a day that should be sacred for all Africans, a day that should serve as an opportunity to reflect on our past struggles to liberate our continent and to salute and honor the fathers of our country's independence. These heroes of Africa's independence were only armed with the conviction of the justness of their cause, as well as their courage, resilience, and readiness to pay the ultimate price. Yet, they were able to face and defeat extremely brutal and heavily armed colonial powers. Looking at the current political, social, and economic situation of some of our countries, you can't help but wonder if the heroes of our independence were able to pass on their political DNA to the next generation. The fathers of our country's independence passionately believed that the independence of their countries would never be complete until all African countries are free from colonial oppression, and exploitation. They passionately and generously cared about the plight of other Africans. Do we still have such leaders on our continent? Yes, we do, but they appear to be rare species. Furthermore, the fathers of our Africa's independence believed that political freedom would not be sustainable without economic freedom and self-determination, and they were convinced that these freedoms will only be achieved and sustained through unity. Do we still have such African leaders who believe in the unity and the political and economic freedom of Africa and act accordingly? They may be there, but not in critical mass to be able to quickly effect the transformation that African peoples yearn. Most of our current African leaders appear to be paying lip service to the African Union lofty ideals, values, and goals. That is why most of the decisions that the African Union take are not implemented. As early as 1963, leaders of the newly independent African countries met in Addis Ababa to establish the Organization of African Unity, OAU. Some of them had wanted to establish the United States of Africa, but were unable to get the consensus for this option. The first important decision of the OAU at its first assembly of heads of state and government in May 1963 was to establish the OAU Liberation Committee, also known as the Coordination Committee for the Liberation of Africa. This committee, which was hosted by Tanzania, was responsible for aiding the liberation movement struggling against colonial rule and apartheid in Africa. The OAU's Liberation Committee has successfully delivered on its mission, and today all African countries are politically free from colonial oppression and exploitation. On a day like this, when we celebrate the political clarity, the spirit of solidarity, and the love for African brethren that characterized the fathers of our independence, we need to ask ourselves if we were able to politically clone them by faithfully transmitting the clarity of political ideology and practice to the current and future generations. In essence, this is what the Pan-African movement is all about, and in this noble task, it deserves the support of all African governments and friends of Africa. Honorables, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa Liberation Day should not be only a day for celebrating achievements. It must also be a day for reflecting on the failures registered in our journey of building a united, strong, just, peaceful, democratic, and prosperous Africa that is counting and is respected in the global community. Africa Liberation Day should not merely, Africa's liberation should not merely should not be merely the absence of external direct rule, but it must be the presence of dignity, development, economic prosperity, and the right to determine the way we govern ourselves and how we live our lives. Much as we have achieved the former, we are still wanting on the latter. We all know that our progress towards socio-economic development and independence has been very slow and unsatisfactory, despite Africa's enormous share of the world's natural resources, which has led some to call our continent a geological scandal. The most striking demonstration of Africa's economic underperformance in the post-independence period is obtained by comparing Ghana with South Korea. In 1960, Ghana had a higher GDP per capita than South Korea. Ghana had a GDP per capita of 220 US dollars, whereas South Korea had a GDP of 158 US dollars per capita. But in 2023, the GDP per capita of South Korea was almost 10 times higher than that of Ghana. South Korea had a GDP per capita of 33,121 US dollars, whereas Ghana was still at 2,260 US dollars. We must seriously ask ourselves what went wrong in the management of our political independence that led to our failure to achieve development and economic independence. I believe that one of the biggest factors is that our mindsets have remained colonized and are still conditioned to serve our former colonial masters. Our education has generally contributed to that situation. We are still teaching in our language, in the language of our colonial masters. And we all know that a language conveys a culture, cultural values, and even anti-values. The situation is such that if we were to have a secondary school or a university that would deliver all its curriculum in one of our indigenous languages, I posit that such a school or university would hardly be accredited and their degrees would not be recognized. In many of our African countries, our elites purchase their first and even second homes in the capitals of their former colonies, and it is in these capitals that they keep most of their savings or their embezzlements, thus contributing to growing the economies of our former colonial masters. By and large, African economies are turned toward serving other continents, especially our former colonial masters. We trade more with them than with our fellow Africans. Even the efforts to change this through the establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area are barely yielding results because it's all about mindsets. Although many of the African elites studied in Western universities and performed as well as their Western colleagues, this has not healed them from a subtle inferiority complex. If anything, it has, in many cases, reinforced it. And we tend to measure our success by the way we have managed to look like them. We still have a long way to go on our journey towards achieving total independence that includes cultural and economic independence. After more than 60 years of independence, for most of our countries, we are still facing new forms of dependency, such as economic, cultural, scientific, and technological. And these dependencies leave entire communities behind, especially the youth, who are currently facing huge unemployment and yet want to look like Westerners, an open door for all dangers. Honorables, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the major root causes of this problem is ill governance by self-serving leaders who appear to have no clear development vision for their countries and are preoccupied only by their personal interest. Even those that have a vision and a strategic plan, they lack the discipline needed to execute them. To overcome all these challenges and achieve peace, stability, sustainable development, and economic independence, we must adopt an intergenerational approach that values not only the wisdom and experience of the elders, but also the energy, knowledge, and skills of the youth. Political and social stability can only be sustained when every generation feels seen, heard, and included. When this is lacking, marginalized youth become tools of instability, and ignored leaders become vehicles of discontent, thus threatening even the hard-earned political independence. An intergenerational approach counters this threat by fostering shared ownership of national visions. We must use platforms such as parliament, think tanks, business forums, civil society, grassroots discussions to create common national and even African dream of peace, prosperity, and equity. Finally, I wish to end my remarks by reminding the audience that the African Union has defined a clear vision of achieving an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force on the global stage. In 2013, it adopted a development agenda known as Agenda 2063. To achieve this vision, this agenda aims at freeing our continent from over-reliance on foreign aid, extractive industries, and exploitative trade practices. To fast-track the achievement of this vision through the implementation of Agenda 2063, AU member states need to invest in innovation and industrialization, to expand Pan-African trade, and to sustainably manage their natural resources. Let this Africa Liberation Day be more than a commemoration. Let it be a recommitment to building an Africa where generations do not compete but collaborate, where the wisdom of the old and the energy of the youth are not at odds but in synergy. The fathers of our independence gave us the right to stand, and the work of our current generation must give our children the right to soar. This can only be achieved through mindset shift. We need to decolonize our mindsets, our education, our trade, our culture, and our worldview. May we walk hand in hand from the old to the young, from the tradition to innovation, all of us towards an Africa that is not just politically free, but flourishing. Happy Liberation Day. Long live to Africa. Long live to our shared future. Thank you, and may God bless you all. Africa. Yes. Africa. Yes. Thank you.
Our guest of honor, I'm now transitioning into the moderator of this panel. And I wish to say that we did not get disappointed by the keynote speech that we've received. So thank you very much. Intergenerational approach to development obliges the current generations to preserve the resources and developments inherited from preceding generations and prepare them for their growth that will be left to the new generations to come. It is about building strong, interconnected communities where people of all ages, those present and those to come, are meant to benefit and share in their well-being. In other words, we need to be thinking about the contribution of the elders, their wisdom and experience, and the contribution of the youth through their energetic, digital, and innovative knowledge that they can bring. We have a great panel to help us in understanding some of these issues. As we already heard, there is no one out there who is going to resolve the issues, challenges of food security, infrastructure, poverty, diseases, financing challenges, inadequate education, environmental challenges, trade restrictions, and so on. If no concerted efforts and deliberate investments where we can achieve 70% of increase in our food production to feed the increasing population, invest in quality education to educate the youthful population, to create employment opportunities, to retain our talent, young people, we will have disappointed not only the continent, but our shared future and forefathers and mothers who fought to liberate our continent. To discuss all these issues and those that have been raised in the keynote speech and the welcome remarks and the guest of honor's keynote address to us, we have Professor Nzeimana Ezai is a professor of African philosophy at the University of Rwanda. I invite you to join me here. I would like also to invite Her Excellency Professor Charity Munyeruka, Ambassador of the Republic of Zimbabwe to Rwanda. Your Excellency, Ambassador. I would like to invite Mr. Ngabo Brave Olivier, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Arts. And I want to invite Ms. Aristeta Owase, she's the Minister of Gender in the Guild Council of the University of Rwanda, Huye campus, but also former chairperson of Pan-African Movement of Huye Campus Students Association. We will proceed with this approach, where I'll be inviting each panel member to make the first submission of not more than 3 minutes on the topics that were shared to them, after which I may ask a follow-up question, and then I'll make sure that we open up for the audience to participate in this conversation. I will start with Her Excellency Ambassador, who is going to talk about harnessing intra-Africa trade, resources, and infrastructure development for Africa's stability and self-reliance. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman and Honorable Minister, Chairman, Pan-African Movement, all protocols observed. Thank you, Pan-African Movement, for inviting me to give, to be in this panel. I would want to say that intra-Africa trade is one of the key pillars to sustainable development. And as already been mentioned, I think Honorable Minister spoke about the AFCTA and also the Agenda 2063, that these are the examples that bring us closer to a united Africa, the Africa we want. I think it was the keynote speaker who also, Ambassador, who also reminded us of one of the objectives of the Agenda 2063, that one of the objectives is to expand Pan-African trade. And hence, I'm sure the organizers of the conference saw it fit that we discuss the intra-African trade, and recalling the clarion call by our forefather Kwame Nkrumah in his 1963 book that Africa must unite. We should do so faster now through Africa intra-trade. I'm sure you can see we are all celebrating the slogan, Africa Unite. And thereby even, putting into action the intergenerational approach as we recognize the contributions of our forefathers. President Kagame recently said we can't outsource our security. I'm inspired to say we can't outsource our intra-regional trade. We have to take practical steps ourselves and create the Africa we want that trades more within itself. Informed by what has already been done by our forefathers, including Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and others. We need to connect with their great ideas to recognize continuity in dialogue, our past, our present, and for future generations. Our Honorable Minister here spoke of the spirit of Ubuntu. If we seriously have to bring the spirit of Ubuntu alive, it is this intergenerational approach where we connect with our past, our present, and the future. And indeed, carry our youth along. You are aware that our intra-trade figures are not good at the moment. We are currently trading in Africa only amongst ourselves. The trade is around 16%, and it is the lowest intra-regional trade if we compare with other regions. Good progress has been made in our RECs, that is our regional economic commissions, and notably through the AfCFTA. For example, the Guided Trade Initiative, where 39 countries have signed up and 13 have completed all documentation and will start trading duty-free with each other. This is the real practical action we need to increase intra-Africa trade. But you know the challenges that are existing, the tariff barriers, the non-tariff barriers. The tariff barriers may be easier because these are quantitative, but the non-tariff barriers, when you talk of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, the technical barriers to trade themselves, pesticides issues, for example, the bureaucratic systems that we put in place as we think we are protecting each other, but why not harmonize, our requirements for the safety, could be for the health standards, but we can talk and agree on the measures that are required. We are aware of the cost of trade finance, which remain high and prohibitive. The cost of transport and logistics are very high. Walter Rodney wrote many years ago that all our airlines, they lead to the north and thus prohibiting our trade. Notably, yes, we see the Ethiopian Airlines, Rwanda Air also now in cargo, trying to facilitate trade. But we need to do more. We need our airlines to link Africa so that goods can move, And as I speak about Walter Rodney, this talks to the intergenerational dialogue through education. People are writing. We need to write about the Africa we want and propose solutions as scholars. And the problem that exists in terms of the movement of persons, the issue of visas. Dangote was here last year. I remember he really emphasized on this issue, and not for the first time when he attended international conference in Kigali, that as long as we have these visas that we impose on each other, freedom of movement, because the goods cannot move alone. They move with the persons, so it means that we prohibit our intra-African trade. But we note, yes, there are countries that are making it possible to move persons. We salute, of course, Rwanda and Kenya, because they have scrapped visas for the African citizens. But a lot more needs to be done so that we increase intra-African trade. International finance is not easily accessible, but we can also, in addition with calling for reform in such institutions such as IMF and World Bank, strengthen our own financial institutions such as the Africa Development Bank and other African banks. Cross-border payments are very difficult and cumbersome. You know it. Banks should help our citizens deal with each other, especially the SMEs. In conclusion, really, I mean, to these first 3 minutes that I got, maybe I'm still in 3 minutes, I would want to say that we need to promote regional value chain management. Have one ultimate product that we call African, but which has components coming from the various countries, the African countries, recognizing our comparative advantages. Governments need to do their part in creating an enabling environment. President Kagame said this recently when presenting on AFCTA. Grow the African economy by boosting production, develop our green and blue economies. And surely when Minister Kabarebe talked about Ubumun, protecting Ubumun, I said, if we produce our own products, we till our land, and produce our own food, that is Ubumun we are talking about. If we can extract the resources that we have, and most of the time we don't even know them. We don't even have the maps of the products that we have, the minerals. Let's build strong intra and inter-African networks, enhancing facilitation. Recently, you recall, we had an AI international conference here. We haven't even begun as an African region to use AI to promote our intra-African trade. But we can use it. We can use it, for value chain. I mean, we can also promote value chain integration, promote our youth and women, industries such as arts and film. We are promoting a lot of these innovation hubs, but they need recognition, they need sponsorship to develop their products. These are our youth. This is the Obomonu that is being referred to in this house today. We need to create and share databases. What happens is that we don't even know who is producing what in Africa, and so when people trade, when even people produce, they don't know the opportunities, the vast opportunities that are existing in Africa. We need, Africa has a huge potential to increase intra-Africa trade. We need to continue the intra-generational approach to development. I recall very well, when Strive Masiwa came here, he was speaking in a conference alongside President Kagame with the youth, and he was holding, I remember this picture very well, he was holding a sandal from Uzuri, that youth here who produces beautiful sandals. I have several pairs on that, I must confess. From tires, from our own Kiteng, using our own resources, but what do I see? That's intergenerational dialogue. Our president is there, business person is there, the youth are there. They are talking about how can you succeed? How can you promote, the African production? The other issue is that it has been mentioned. I think it was the keynote speaker who talked about. We need to promote our young artists, and film producers, because they are doing a lot in that. Recently I attended an exhibition here. I was really touched by that exhibition. It was about a young man here in Kigali who was painting from the recollection, the conversation he had with his father when he was a refugee in Uganda, But, it was, he now did a lot of painting to express himself with clarity on the genocide against the Tutsis. The art and films by the young, the old, must be in the galleries in Africa. I included the old because I am aware that I've admired a lot of art on the Inyambo. There are people who paint very good painting on Inyambo, and why not trade amongst ourselves? That is money. This is the intra-trade we're talking about. It's goods and services. We need to recognize it. Our stories of pain, our never again, our liberation struggles, but also our lives are expressed through these paintings, through this art, through this film, and hence must be promoted. We need to keep the conversations such as this one today going. We need to reset our own agenda and prioritize implementation of our own agenda. And here, there is no replacement for action. Action for the Africa we want. I thank you, Murakoze Chani.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to Professor Isai, just to reflect on reforming education to reflect African values, knowledge, and practices for sustainable development.
Thank you. Merci. Akwaba. My key concept concerns students between university and industry. I want to open my address by this question. I think that is not acceptable that universities provide an employment young. By exclusion, university students are not responsible of their unemployment, I think, as a hypothesis. Let's suppose that university and industry are sometimes cause or factors of this situation and propose some solution provisional. I understand the industry in a global sense as universal of action and practice in link with our program or academic program, such as arts, humanities, science, engineering, etc. Between university and industry, on one side, universities provide knowledge, but you need industry to verify, falsify, confirm scientific knowledge. On another side, industry needs universities for knowledge. But in Africa, these needs are not coordinated. I think I open this question, this discussion. On the side of university, I ask me if outside industry, university teach science or history of science. Because without industry, science is not effective, is ineffective. Industry are laboratory of knowledge, science. On another side, African industry don't fund research and university program. This is another question. On the values as purpose of this panel, modern universities of science, social science, and humanity teach history, but don't teach myth. Foundation or our values. He considers myth as archaic, without rationality. As a consequence, Africa has a new generation without myth, without legends, without proverb, without memory, without past, without projection in time. The project consists on the sound or digitalization program of our myths, our legend, our proverb for new generation. I propose some project on the side on industry. I propose to invite industry into university to make simulation industry in the university. On another side, I invite industry into the university to invite industry to finance university program for industry. So it's the university which become as a workshop for modeling for industry to product values in market for industry. As example, in Africa, we have economic zone in Rwanda, in Gabon, Benin, Senegal, Morocco, Egypt. Why not a pilot university established in this economic zone? As example, I propose such as College of Science and Technology. In this call, on myself and another partners, I propose to collect research need. I propose to meet with industry to collect research needs, make this need into teaching doctrine for research and teaching. This doctrine become project-based teaching doctrine, become also doctrine of fine dissertation and fine thesis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The invitation of industries into universities and invitation of universities into industries, and to stop teaching the history of science, but to teach science. I invite before I invite the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Youth and Arts to invite Teta to give the perspective of the youth, then at least in the intervention of the permanent secretary, maybe you can respond to some of the issues she may raise.
Thank you so much, guest of honor and moderator of today. First of all, happy African Day.
Unite.
Thank you. I'm honored to represent youth on this panel. And Africa Liberation Day is about remembering the past. But to me, it's more than that. It's about actively shaping our future. As young African, I feel a strong sense of responsibility to build a free and united Africa. So allow me to share how young people are already making this vision real and what we can do together, as our theme says today, intergenerational approach to development. First of all, youth is a driving force for stability. As we celebrate African Liberation Day, we honor and recognize our forefathers who led liberation struggles across the continent and laid foundation for Pan-Africanism. They were youth who dared to dream of Africa that is self-reliant, that is free and united. And as young Africans today, we are committed to take on that dream and move Africa where they dreamed to take it. In Rwanda, youth played role in post-genocide reconstruction, in healing, rebuilding, and leading. We have seen their role in, we know Itorero, Umuganda. We have always seen them on forefront of fighting to bring our country where it is now, among the most politically, economically, and socially stable nations across the world. Thank you for our forefathers who liberated Africa and our country. And as youth, I would like to say that we are proud and committed to achieve Africa we all envision. As I said, youth is a driving force for stability. Our forefathers fought for political independence, and as youth, as young Africans, our role now, our mission now is to achieve economic liberation. And we promise that we have that zeal to bring Africa where it will be economically independent and politically stable. I would like to say that youth are already making this vision real. We have seen that self-reliance starts with empowering youth. Our country is a great example of that. Across the continent, African youth are at the forefront of economic liberation through entrepreneurship, agribusiness, digital finance, and ecotourism, and tech innovation as well. They are reclaiming Africa's wealth for African people. We can as well see that through homegrown digital platforms, which are unlocking financial access and bringing traders, informal traders, to Pan-African markets, as Ambassador has been telling us about AFCTA. It is a great achievement that is being achieved by those Pan-Africanists who as well want to give Africa economic independence. I would like to say that today, Africa lies in hands of young Africans, in hands of a generation that believes that we are enough, we have enough, and we can build enough. Allow me to talk about intergenerational approach. I appreciate the organizers of African Liberation Day that this year they thought about intergenerational approach to development. It has been always other approaches, but this year it's intergenerational approach. I would like to say that as African youth, we deeply honor the wisdom, sacrifices, and leadership of our elders, those who fought for our liberation, those who built our institutions, and laid foundation that we stand on today. We believe that future of Africa depends on the generation it does not depend on one generation taking over, but all of the generations working hand in hand and work together. Dear elders, we need you, we need your knowledge. We are not here to depress you. We can't dream of that. But what we want now is to work with you. We want to be where we share, we get that experience from you. And we want to learn, we want to contribute and carry forward the vision of a united and self-reliant Africa. As I said earlier, we recognize and honor our forefathers who fought for Africa that is liberated. But as youth, I have been telling you what youth are doing right now, but we must accept the hard truth that now in some regions, youth are being pulled into extremism, into armed conflict and political unrest. We have seen it in our neighboring countries and in other different countries in Africa. But that is so painful, and that painful contrast reveals something which is clear, that when youth are excluded, instability grows. But when we are empowered, when we are inspired, we become force for peace and progress. I would like to say that, as our guest of honor said earlier, that pastures grows but when they are watered. Dear elders, please water us with clean water, if I can say it like that. Thank you. The reason why I'm saying this, in the past we have seen what elders did for youth. They engaged them in, they taught them about the bad ideology, and we have seen what have happened in Rwanda. And we no longer want to be in, to face that. What we want right now is to get a good experience from you, and we are so lucky here in Rwanda that we have good leaders, we have elders who want us to be like them in the future. The good thing is that in this room we are with youth. So dear youth, as young people, we should learn from our forefathers. They were young, just like us, but they refused to accept the limits that were placed on them. They dreamed, organized, and acted. We should do just like them. Their legacy is a proof that African liberation has always been carried by youth, and I was going to say that I hope, but I believe, I really know that it still is, because we are here as youth who want to liberate, to fully liberate Africa. Fellow youth, we are African strength. Allow me to give you this message today, that we are Africa's strength and we must choose how to use that power. Some of us are building peace in Africa. We see them keeping peace, while others are being pulled into violence out of frustration. That is so sad, but I would like to call upon you to be tools for stability, not tools for instability. Let's be the builders of peace. Seek knowledge, speak with purpose, and lead with courage. I don't want to keep on giving youth the messages without saying what we want to see as youth. I think that's why the moderator told me to first suggest what we want to see as youth. As I said, we need you, we need your experience, we need to be taught by you, but we need to be mentored. The good thing is in Pan-African movement, we are lucky today. We have been taught about being leaders. We have leadership development trainings and among the graduates in the last cohorts, but we need what is more than that. We need to be mentored. We have now, we have been given those courses because we are at school, we are at university, but we suggest that those trainings may be given to those youth who are at local level. The good thing is that we have now committees at the local level. you may please give them that chance to learn those leadership skills so that they are trained, they are prepared to be the good leaders in near future. Another thing I want to embark on is that as youth, we don't want to be job seekers, but job creators. One of the problems we have in Africa, especially, I think it is here in Rwanda, we don't have access to finance. Not just because we have not yet been given that access or that chance, but because some of the youth, they lack the skills to use those finances. We suggest that you keep on training us on how there is an elder in the morning who say that they don't want to go and sit, but they want to keep on teaching us. I really like that. And as we are at local level, we are in our villages, we need you as elders so that you can keep on guiding us in all of that. As youth, we need to be included more than ever. As I said, we are committed to driving Africa where it is more liberated, where it is fully liberated. But we suggest that as you mentor us, as you give us those skills, you train us not to grab the seat and sit there, but to be there to meaningfully contribute and shape the policies and strategies that affect our future. Another thing that we want is open dialogues. We can have what we think, but we need to be guided. We need to be told that this is done like this and that is well done when it is an open discussion, when we are together, when we can ask our questions. I hope that as youth, we will get the chance to be given that opportunity to meet with our elders and get more experience from them. As youth, we understand that building Africa requires both memory and momentum, and we believe that working together across the generation is how we will secure peace, prosperity, and dignity for all Africans. As I said, and as I conclude, we don't want to take over, but we are here to learn. Africa is blessed with the elders whose wisdom we deeply respect, and as youth, we seek for your guidance, and we want to be ready to carry the torch for the next generation. This is the struggle between ages. It's a partnership across all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngabo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Guest of Honor. All protocol observed. Thank you, moderator, for letting me be the last, because the beauty of it is everybody has said most of the things, including what needs to be done for us as Africans, and especially I thank my sister right here for speaking on behalf of ourselves of what we are going to do as a commitment for the youth. First of all, we are so grateful to be part of this platform, because it is, as the guest of honor said it, we, particularly as Rwandans, we are very much lucky to have the leadership who do understand the force of youth. Because by then they were youth, they did great for the country, so they understand the drive force, as my sister was saying, of the youth So we are lucky enough to be part of these kind of platforms, discussions, even giving what we think can be done for the youth, at least to carry on after all the fights, the liberation fight for Africa that has been done by our elders. So there is, I would say that there is a lot that is being done, not only in the Ministry of Youth and Arts, where we do participate in different platforms. I just took an example of last 6 months where we had Pan-African Youth Forum that happened in Algeria. I was lucky enough to be part of it. It was a youthful engagement where we discussed mostly, Ambassador said it, most of the challenges that youth are facing towards the business, the integration of business. If you see the transportation, if you see the taxes, all these kind of things that are quite a barrier for the youth, for the young entrepreneurs to explore other markets, other African markets. We have realized that there's a lot of opportunities in doing the trade between the countries of Africa. We participate in different things such as East African Culture Festival that happened in Ethiopia, where we had a great opportunity of exchange and learning from each other through the creative sector, through the art. We have realized that if you go to the numbers of our country, that the creative sector itself is contributing more than 5% in GDP. So that shows how much this sector is contributing to the country, so creating the jobs, so giving the opportunities to the young ones. If you go to the creative sector, more than 80% of them are young people. I guess this is why it also belongs to the Ministry of Youth. We have been exploring different opportunities, different festivals, conferences happening across the continent. We have another one that is coming, PAM, that is happening in Congo-Brazzaville. It is what we do, it is more of the exposure of the artists, of the youth, of the creative sector between African countries, because we have realized we have so much beauty of our culture in common, so we can also make money out of it, make business out of it, as the ambassador said, the beauty, the paintings, all the beauty piece of art that we have. What we keep on encouraging our fellow young entrepreneurs is actually embedding the spirit of African. If you see, if you go through, Professor said it well, the myth of Africans, the myth of our elders, you see a heart, you see a motivation that was behind all the revolution. So that spirit that our parents had back then, we need to have it so that we liberate financially, economically Africa as youth, because being a force drive, it gives us a great responsibility and accountability to our parents sitting here and elsewhere in Africa, because they look up to us to what are you doing after what we did. So we need to embed that African spirit, that motivation that they had while fighting all this fought. Back for what we are doing, we are learning from our elders that with small we have, but we can multiply and come out with the big ideas. For instance, I would mention a few programs where we have Aguka Youth Fund, responding to what my sister was raising about the young entrepreneurs' access to finance. There's something that we as a government or the country in general thinking about, creating Aguka Youth Fund together with different partners, how we are going to put money into BDF and let the youth come with the ideas, with the businesses, get the finances without the collateral. This is an ongoing program. We have ideation programs that takes from mentorship to financing up to 5,000 USD business opportunity to the young entrepreneurs. There's a Youth Connect Summit that is happening across the country, across the continent. We had it last year in October, where we gathered 5,600 African youth that came here to exhibit, to demonstrate what they do as young entrepreneurs. So we exchange the ideas and contacts in order to explore the opportunities between the countries across Africa. We have had the Youth Connect Awards, where we awarded more than 3,000 people, young entrepreneurs, who created jobs, more than 6,000 jobs. We have road maintenance in our country that, together with different institutions, we come up giving the opportunity to 158 youth companies that created 10,000 jobs. Those are the best practices that we can learn from each other between African countries. There is a lot that actually our government is doing, but now it comes to ourselves as young ones saying, or reminding ourselves, yes, this is a good day of celebration, but also of reflection and reminding ourselves who we are as African people. Not, you can learn, you can go to abroad for studies, but if you keep the African heart, the African spirit of coming back home, doing it for your own people, for your own parents, for your own land, it is a great responsibility of what are we leaving behind as youth who have been given opportunity to sit in such platform. So thank you very much. Maybe we can...
Thank you very much. I will sacrifice my follow-up questions and open the floor to the audience, but I have three real issues that I want the members of the audience to contribute to, and which also the panel members would respond to when they are giving their closing remarks. Africa is the richest continent in terms of natural resources and many other things, but it is the poorest. Can we concretely try to suggest things, what can be done? We have a very youthful population. We have the largest arable land, but we still have the problem of food insecurity. Even in our traditional societies, where we used a lot of energy by having the youthful population, even if we said let us cultivate our Arab land, we would be food secure. What is the problem? We're talking about the transformation of our resources into value-added resources and leave extractive trade that we currently have. But how can we achieve that with only less than 6% of people who attend higher education, with only 4% if we consider Rwanda? And if we consider Rwanda as we are moving towards knowledge economy, how can we be sure that we will achieve knowledge economy with over 70% not completing lower secondary education? I think these are real issues that we need to genuinely discuss and try to provide recommendations and ask ourselves, if we are talking about 2063, when we will be celebrating 100 years of Africa's independence, which is based on the 2063 agenda, will we have achieved the 2063 agenda? If we are talking about multiplying at least 70 times the current food that we have to be able to feed the 2.6 billion population that we will have in 2050, that is 25 years from today, how are we going to achieve that 70 times of the current food that we have? Those are the questions that I think members of the audience can contribute to, and our audience and our panelists would wind up in their concluding remarks. So if we have some interventions.
Thank you. My name is Hadija Murangwa. I am a senator, and I'm also representing PDI political party here today. So I'm wearing two hats, and I'm happy that I'm here in this very interesting discussion. Distinguished Honorable Guest of Honor, Minister of State Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Chair of PAM, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I take this honor to be speaking at this meeting with great, I don't know if I should say pride or happiness, because I think it's a very valid discussion that we have, delayed, and we need to put more energy to it. Why am I saying this? The chair and guest of honor and even the keynote speaker all concurred in talking about the fact that leadership is an issue and we need good leaders. But one of them also said that these good leaders are very rare species, as we all know. So again, we take pride in having a good leader in our country. And to answer the question of the moderator, I had a question, but let me begin by answering you. What is wrong and what do we need to review and do right? We need those good leaders. We need those rare species. We need to identify them early because they are the drivers of the change that we need. And if there is one answer that would fit all, it would be that one, good leaders. Number two, I requested to speak because I also wanted to talk about what I think is the issue in terms of why we are the way we are. The speakers talked about different drivers for where we are today and why. And some of the vehicles they talked about is obviously the fact that our education doesn't support our children to grow thinking in an African way. That is a fact, and we need to address it. Our culture, obviously, is watered down by the fact that when our education doesn't fit what will actually fit the Rwandan or African continent, at the end of the day, the culture is also watered down. Our trade needs revamping, as Ambassador talked about. We need to be happy to work with each other as Africans, but we always prefer to go abroad. We think that's where there's greener pastures. We think that's where there is more money. We think that's where we'll get better opportunities. It remains a fact that that's also an issue that we need to work with. There's something that the keynote speaker talked about regarding world view. I like to term it as media influence. It would obviously be meaning two different things for sure, but then I think we have a long journey in being able to own our narrative around the media and therefore help our children, our daughters and sons, and even the older generation to actually understand what we want and how to get there. The Africa we want can't keep on being described by others. We need to be able to own that narrative. So I believe in terms of answers that the moderator was looking for, one of them is media. If we can afford, as Africa, as Rwanda, to have a war in the DRC, and we have, they were called, the Romanians that were there, they were called mercenaries, and they came and were killing people, and they were brought by DRC, but we don't have any media outlet that actually was able to broadcast that information for fellow Africans to even have a clue of what is going on. Then we are very far, according to me. So I wanted to add to the discussion that I do support the rare species of good leaders. It's a solution. I do support that there is need for education to be revamped. And lastly, we need to own our narrative. Media is a very strong tool that has been providing wrong information across the globe, what is Africa doing about that? And this goes to both the ambassador and okay, I don't know the names, but the guy sitting next to the ambassador who has specs. So there are two. The one who has specs, I don't know the name, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. P.S. It's you who have specs. Any other intervention? I will take the gentleman here, Ambassador Emir, and another gentleman behind. So let us start with Ambassador Emir, then we come here.
Thank you, Chairperson, Your Excellencies, comrades, and I think we are discussing a very important topic. How do we what do we do to actually achieve the objectives of that long journey to 2063? Lots of things have been talked about. I'm going to focus on one or two things. I wish to focus on the youth, the role of youth, and the role of education. I think what we are doing today, somebody talked about it. I think it's the last speaker on the right. We are no longer, we are no longer dealing so much with political liberation as it used to be. There's still very strong aspects of political liberation that we still have to come to, but there is room here for getting, the Senator talked about getting the leaders that we want. I think the youth can play a role. The youth can influence, for the appropriate political leadership to come up on the continent. The youth can become a pressure group across the continent. The youth can create a wide youth network whose voice can be heard on the continent. And here, I'd like to bring up the issue of the social media. The social media is currently dominated by ineffective messages and sometimes toxic message that has dominated the scene. What can be done to use the social media to actually make the Pan-African agenda dominate the social media? I think something can be done, and the youth definitely has the weapons to achieve that. I believe if you had the capacity to overcome the bad leadership of the past, almost barefoot with no appropriate weaponry, I believe with the tools that exist in the information age that we are living in, you can come up, you can dominate the social media with appropriate messages to become a pressure group for the appropriate leadership to come up. That's about the social media and the youth. With regards to education, you all know that the current level of technology, the artificial intelligence, it is developing very fast. What was a breaking news yesterday is no longer today. Something new has come up. Where we teach 1,000 students, it will be possible, and it is possible already, to teach 10,000 with using the same, almost the same infrastructure and human resources. Let's take advantage of this technology that is available to us and create avenues to multiply by 10 the education. It is possible to reach out to many people, provided, of course, there is a political will. So I think our Pan-African agenda can be a very good facilitator to empower this message on the continent. Thank you very much. I took more time that has been given to me, and I thought it was worth talking about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not more than 30 seconds, and then we proceed.
Thank you very much. My name is Damien Nkurunziza. I'm here on behalf of the President of Democratic Green Party of Rwanda, Dr. Ambassador Frank Habineza, and I'm honored to be a participant here today. And thank you, Honorable Minister of State and guest of honor, and everybody else for your participation. I have a few remarks. I have taken note of what the guest of honor said, that greener pastures are where they are watered. I've also taken note that the key not speaker today did say that he didn't mention about mindset. I'm also been challenged to hear our moderator saying that, Africa has natural resources, but it's poorest. We have a vast land, but no adequate food. And I've also been listening. Everybody is commissioning youth. I wish I was saying in Kinyarwanda, speaking Kinyarwanda, so can we move in together, both the young, the youth, and the old, because this is paramount. Ladies and gentlemen, I think everything that we need is right there in our slogan, Africa Unite. If we do unite, since we have the resources, all will be okay, but that is what is lacking. I would like the entire meeting today to take an example of Rwanda, my country. We had our differences, but we had an idea of Ndumunyarwanda, and with that, everybody was able to unify. I would like to challenge everyone today, why don't we have a saying, I'm an African. Regardless of where I come from, I am proud I'm an African. We see our young people dying, trying to go and find greener pastures outside Africa because they don't take pride of being Africans. The moment we create African ideology of being an African and taking pride of being an African, and we let our children feel proud and know that everything they need is here, then we will be able to realize, our eyes will be opened, that everything we need is within us. One day, our president did say that I am you and you are me. Africans need to feel that I am you and you are me. And the moment we begin to be proud and sing, I'm an African, instead of being, I'm Rwandan, I'm Ugandan, I'm Tanzanian, I'm Kenyan. Yes, we will keep those, are very vital. But first of all, we are Africans. I'm an African. I think everything lies in there. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. The last intervention, if you still, there was, okay, I take this one. Yes.
Thank you. All protocol observed. My submission is on the quality of our families. We know that families are the foundations of any society, and we talk about women, issues with the youth, gender-based violence, issues with young girls. But one issue we could be overlooking is the stability of families in terms of mentoring and giving them the time that they require to grow into those leaders that are rare species. Research shows that emotional intelligence is very critical to any leadership ambitions. And the time that as elders we are spending with our children is very limited. And this is leading to depression, this is leading to suicides, this is leading to rates of divorce in marriages. And I would like to submit to you that we also consider how to strengthen the fabric of our families in terms of the home, and seeing how to ensure that we invest in the unity, because if we cannot unite at home because of all those issues, definitely we won't unite as a continent. And I'll submit to the elders to really reconsider how we engage outside of our homes, and also take into considerations that even our children and the time we spend with them, raising them, is part of the work we're doing to see the Africa that we want in 2063. Otherwise, we'll be chatting away, we'll be crafting the path for them, but they won't be there to take up the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will use my discretion as a moderator to give the floor to two individuals who are mentioned, Ambassador and PS, so that they can make remarks on our behalf. And then after that, I will invite the first two laws to come in front for a group photo as they finalize our resolutions. And then the Dean of African Diplomatic Corps will give the concluding remarks. So in that order, I would like to invite Ambassador, you go first. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. I should have apologized. My voice, you can see that it was sweetened, I must say, by the environment. That's why it's very hoarse. My apologies for that. I wanted to say that, to conclude by saying that, you know, about 2 months ago, I visited a coffee production area uptown. You call it uptown? Yes. So there was an old woman who was in her field producing coffee. I was very impressed. Very, very old, I must say. But she owned her coffee field. And the cherries that I saw there, amazing. But what did this story tell me in terms of African trade, intra-trade? That particular group of people are exporting, right? But they are in a cooperative. It talks about organization, that it is important for us to organize ourselves in terms of production so that we make it happen. I mean, when we drink this coffee, you will not know that a Munyarwanda old woman is producing the coffee that you are drinking, right? Because government is providing extension work. So they deal with all those issues of standards. Because standards, those ways, they just make our people afraid to say, how can I export into the EU market, for example? It becomes an impossibility. But when government enables that production, and then the standards are right. So it's an area we need to focus on, the issue of standards, the issue of how do we organize to produce for exports. You know, when you do that, sustainability of the exports, is ensured. And the other issue I really want to talk about is that we need to enhance our cooperation. 2 days ago, I visited an art exhibition by a Zimbabwean teacher here called Teacher Mzavazi. This exhibition was called Mutakura. I looked for Mzavazi, he was not there. Guess who was manning the exhibition? They were Rwandans manning the exhibition. He said, okay, what is it that I'm going to see? Cultural art for both countries, right? Rwanda and Zimbabwe. But who is explaining? Who's facilitating this trade to happen? It is the Rwandans. Teacher was in class. His name is Teacher, but he is also a teacher, right? He was in class teaching. So cooperation is very, very important if we are going to promote intra-trade. The last point that I'll make is our legal frameworks. You know, we need to improve them. We need to keep working. We need to work on them so that, for example, they can enhance e-commerce. These products by us, the Africans, cannot continue to be hidden. They have to be online. People want to buy online, but the legal frameworks have to be made by each country and make it happen. Our banks, our financial institutions have to ensure that people can buy and sell they can sell using Visa, using MasterCard, whatever, but those platforms, they have to be enabled. You know, these youngsters are producing, but they don't know how to sell internationally, to sell to everybody, to reach the whole of Africa. Let the legal frameworks enable our people to trade. I really want to say that if we do this, I strongly believe this is Ubumun. If we make our trade grow as an African people, the spirit of Kwame Nkrumah, the spirit of Julius Nyerere, these intergenerational dialogues our youngsters are calling for, surely will be enhanced if we, governments, the private sector partner. But what I see is that the government is the one which directs. If it doesn't direct and wait for the private sector, what I saw about that old woman, coffee producer, being enabled to produce a coffee cherries. I cherish that interaction I had with her. I parked my car, I sat on the roadside. Beautiful stories coming from this old woman. But she is an exporter of coffee, promoting inter-African trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final words.
Thank you very much, moderator. First of all, interventions were more of recommendations, what we think can be done from the audience, and we have take note as youth, as so that we put it on a daily reflection into action, so we make the Africa we want. I strongly agree with good and young leaders are needed, but we also say that they are nurtured. They are breastfed, if I might use that terminology, by the old ones. This platform that we are here is part of what is nurturing the young leaders we wish for Rwanda or for the rest of African countries. There's also something that was said about narrating our own story through multimedia, and this is a part of the daily discussions we keep on having with the artists, especially in the sector of Ministry of Youth and Arts. Yesterday I had an opportunity of meeting 30 artists. We were having a conversation of how do we be the African artists rather than the Western artists, so that we also narrate our own story. It's an opportunity to bring to the world the beauty of our culture. There's also different recommendations about youth influencing the appropriate leadership across the continent, having a strong network. We have different platforms. There's also someone who said the African ideology of being an African before anything else. I think this is a major reason why we are sitting here in Pan-African Movement Chapter Rwanda, because it is in that spirit of oneness, that spirit of one African, which we strongly learn from our elders. Lastly, there's something about emotional intelligence, which is very critical in leadership, that I also do agree, because it starts from within. It starts from myself, to my family, to my country, then to my continent. Who am I? What do I give to the rest of the world? So I do strongly believe in that, because it's always good to have the mind and the heart at the balance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Joining me in thanking our panelists. And I apologize because time was not on our side. Let us have a group photo, as I requested the first two laws in the representation of the rest for this day. And then after that, the Dean of African Diplomat Corps will give the closing remarks after we've read out the recommendations or the resolutions. So you will come in front here, then they will first take the first photo facing this way, and then we can look, we can turn back, and then they can take picture together with the rest of the audience. Aravuga source. Okay, is the Secretariat ready with the resolutions? Yes. Are you ready? Okay, please.
They cannot take away from what's in our DNA. Humankind rooted in the promised land or destiny. It's time to embrace the race. Black is power, black is grace, black is beauty and diversity. Like the stems of a tree, rooted in the soil of Mama Africa. Yeah.
Honorable State Minister in charge of Regional Cooperation, Honorable James Kabarebe, keynote speaker, ambassadors, all protocol observed. My name is Julian Murangira, and I'm very pleased to be your clerk tonight. Allow me to present to you a high-level summary of what was discussed in this wonderful meeting, and treat it as a slice of cake or you take away from this occasion. Starting with the opening remarks, the chairperson of PAM, Rwanda, opened the event by introducing the slogan, Africa Unites, in replacement of Africa Oi. Can we do it once more? Africa? Unite. Africa? Unite. Thank you so much. This was as a call for deeper solidarity across the continent. He informed members of his re-election for a new third-year term and shared highlights from the morning of Pan-African Movement Congress. His key points included the need to reach grassroots level with PAM activities, encouragement for members to support Pan-African movement financially, challenges to Pan-Africanism, including excessive nationalism and lack of unity in a language. It concluded with a call for better follow-throughs on resolutions, potentially supported by accountability mechanisms. The chairperson retaliated that the focus of the celebration was Africa integration, anchored in the day's theme, intergenerational approach to development, a panacea for stability and economic independence in Africa. Remarks by the guest of honor. The Minister of State for Regional Integration. The guest of honor extended his gratitude to PAM and the diplomatic corps. He reminded attendees that Africa Liberation Day is a moment not only to celebrate, but to reflect on liberation beyond colonial rule into social, cultural, and economic dimensions. He emphasized that every generation has a role to play in shaping Africa's destiny. The youth must be empowered to thrive on the continent, not forced to migrate for opportunities. The elders' generation remains vital, and collective progress requires an intergenerational approach. He concluded by saluting the commitment of all present towards achieving Africa's excellence. The keynote address by Dr. Murigande. He thanked Pan-African movement and observed protocol. He emphasized that Liberation Day should not be a ceremonial event only, but also a sacred day of remembrance and renewal. His address included recognition of Africa's founding liberation leaders whose unity and vision extended beyond borders, a critique of current leaders who pay lip service to the African Union principles, resulting in minimal to no progress. He also passed a reminder that political freedom is incomplete without economic and cultural liberation. He cited Ghana and South Korea's diverging economic paths since the 1960s as evidence of Africa's missed opportunities. The need to decolonize Africa mindsets, particularly in education, trade, and language. He concluded with a call for integrational synergy, combining the youth energy with elder wisdom to fast-track Agenda 2063. We had a very wonderful panel, which was a good mix of what we are working on, the theme today of intergenerational transformation. Some of the reflections were boost intra-African trade by removing trade barriers and easing visa restrictions. Build African solutions in finance, trade, and security without relying on outsiders. Link education to industry through project-based learning and industrial research, to mention but a few. The key recommendations arising from this celebration included institutionalize intergenerational collaboration in Pan-African movement structures and national development strategies. Strengthen support for youth empowerment, including technical capacity building and grassroots outreach. Promote African languages and culture as a tool of unity and common identity. advance intra-Africa trade through visa reforms, infrastructure, and digital innovation. Encourage industry-university partnerships to align education with Africa's development needs. Also, support current creative industries, since they are platforms that tell Africa's story and foster continental pride. Finally, put in place reinforcement mechanisms on AU resolutions and the regional institutions to facilitate their implementation. In conclusion, the 62nd African Liberation Day was not only a celebration, but a renewed call to action, uniting all generations in pursuit of a stable, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa. Long live African unity, long live Pan-Africanism. Africa? Africa? Thank you so much.
That tells you how pessimistic I am. So thank you very much. Those were wonderful resolutions that were made in a very short time. I take this opportunity to invite the Dean of the African Co to come and give the concluding remarks.
Thank you. May I make a little correction? I'm the acting dean of the African Group of Ambassadors, because the dean of the African Group is the ambassador of Senegal, His Excellency Doudou Sow, who is not around. Thank you. Honorable Minister of State for Regional Integration, Honorable Chairperson of Pan-African Movement in Rwanda, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is with the profound honor and the spirit of Pan-African, with the spirit of Pan-African unity, that I address this assembly today as a representative of the African Group of Ambassadors in Rwanda to celebrate the 62nd anniversary of African Liberation Day. This date is not only a historical milestone, but a call to reflect on our past, our present, and the future we wish to build as a continent. The historical significance of Africa Liberation Day. 62 years ago, the founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, now the African Union, AU, met in Addis Ababa with a common purpose: to free the continent from colonial rule and promote African unity. Figures such as Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Julius Nyerere, and Patrice Lumumba dreamed of a united Africa, sovereign, capable, and determining its own destiny. Today, the sacrifice of those who came before us and gave their lives for our freedom, we honor them by fostering a culture of mentorship that bridges generations. By facilitating dialogue between current and past leaders and emerging talent, we ensure that wisdom is passed on and the new perspectives are infused empowering the next generation to lead with purpose and integrity. Africa Day transcends national boundaries, symbolizing our collective identity and aspiration. Those who have joined us yesterday can witness that there was only Africans on the marathon we did yesterday. It is an opportune moment for African nations to collaborate, sharing resources and platforms that foster mentorship, creating initiatives that can nurture emerging leaders, creating a network of informed and committed individuals ready to drive regional integration and development. The spirit of liberation celebrated on Africa Day is a powerful catalyst of intergenerational dialogue. It reminds us that our freedom was achieved through collective efforts and vision. By celebrating Africa Day, we cultivate a sense of responsibility among young Africans to uphold the values of unity, justice, and progress that our predecessors fought for. It is therefore worth celebrating African youth, the architects who will shape the future of our continent, to lead by uplifting those around us so that we can create a strong Africa in its unity. However, it is not only their responsibility, but also that of ours and of future generations to endorse the values and the vision of what we want Africa to be, by taking responsibility of our sovereignty and good governance, as well as to strengthen our ties by fostering cooperation among African states. It is also essential to urge our diaspora, especially our young people, to recognize the inestimable value of experiences and knowledge acquired outside of the continent. May every young African in the diaspora see themselves not only as a child of Africa, but also as an agent of its rebirth, bringing innovation, sustainable solutions, and a firm commitment to the development of our continent. Rwanda has a lighthouse of hope and transformation. As we celebrate Africa Day, we also celebrate Rwanda, a living proof that an African renaissance is possible. After one of the darkest chapters in our history, this country has not only risen, but has become a model of reconciliation, effective governance and innovation. We recognize all the commitments by His Excellency, President Paul Kagame, in its implementation of the objective of the African Union. Regional integration through the East African Community and the African Union is a testament to Rwandans' commitment to Pan-Africanism. Your investment in technology, women's empowerment, and human development inspire the entire continent. The current challenge and the call for collective action. However, despite progress, Africa still faces challenges. conflict and instability in some regions, which requires African solution through mechanisms such as the African Peace and Security Architecture. Economic independence, where we continue to export raw materials without added value, instead of industrializing our economies. Excuse me. Climate change, which threatens food security and the livelihoods of millions. Unemployed youth, despite being the youngest continent in the world. Pan-Africanism cannot be just a talk, it must be action. The African Continental Free Trade Area is a crucial step, but we need infrastructure, industrial policies, and investment in technical education. The role of the African Group of Ambassadors and the future we want. As heads of diplomatic mission in Rwanda, our African Group is committed to strengthening South-South cooperation by promoting intra-African infrastructure and investment, supporting peace and security, learning from examples such as the Rwanda reconciliation process, advocating for a united African voice in global forums. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before concluding, I would like, on behalf of the African Group of Ambassadors, to acknowledge the opportunity given to us by the government of Rwanda to celebrate this moment event. We also would like to congratulate the Pan-African Movement Rwanda for its significant impact on the celebration program. May I also congratulate and thanks to the media, which is the responsible to spread what discussion we had here and how the program of celebration is taking part. May this day remind us that, as Kwame Nkrumah said, the liberation of Africa will only be complete when the continent is politically united. We wish us all a happy and joyful Africa Day. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We are now moving to the photo session, and the guest of honor, you will be joined by the ministers present. By ministers, I also include Honorable Hippolyte Ngate, Ministre des Petites et Moyennes Entreprises of Central African Republic, small and medium enterprise, also present with us. I also request ambassadors to join in the photo, and our speakers and the Pan-African Movement Bureau, the three members we invited this morning. So may I invite you to come forward. So the rest can rise so that we would join in the picture from the background.
We are not African, 'cause we are born in Africa. We are African, 'cause Africa is born in us. We are not African, 'cause we are born in Africa. We are African, 'cause Africa is born in us. So take the time to understand the land. Africa in every child, man and woman. Take the time to understand the land. How can you reject the place where human life began? Take the time to understand the land. Africa is part of Jaja plan. Take the time to understand the land of Africa.
Africa. Thank you very much.